I'm Jeremy Johnson Miller. I am communications manager at.
Brad, can you turn it up? Here, just move it closer. Yeah, there you go. See if that helps.
How are we doing? Better? Thank you. Communications manager at Easterseals Project Action. We're a department within headquarters in Chicago, but I actually work from home in Des Moines, Iowa. But today we're going to talk about marketing your transportation program. That's me. A lot of things that you need to consider when you're trying to start a marketing plan or some sort of marketing effort. You're trying to decide what to do, who to talk to. All these ideas and thoughts and questions come into your mind. So you need to kind of go through that process first to kind of understand who are your passengers, who's your community, who are you serving, what service do they need, and then kind of move from there. So that's what we're going to be doing for most of today. But at first, I'm going to have you participate. Just raise your hand. Who here has some sort of full-time, part-time staff that does marketing? Nobody. Wow. If you do it part-time, sure. So we have one. Great. Okay, so I answered the next question. We don't have enough staff or time. How many of you have websites, functioning websites where people can go and get the information? You're updating it constantly. Good, good, we like that. Same with brochures. You have brochures that you're updating constantly. Good. We haven't updated our brochures in 10 years. Nobody? I used to do, okay. I used to do audits for Iowa DOT, and we found a lot of old brochures out there, so don't be afraid to raise your hand, because you're not the only one. Word of mouth. Some small communities love this. They just talk to their neighbors, they just talk to whomever they're working with. And then you don't know where to start. Anybody there? You don't know what to do? Nobody? Okay. I think with anything, building a business, building some sort of plan, project, whatever, you need to have some sort of idea of what you're working with. Building a plan, I think, is probably the best thing that you can do to put those thoughts into action. So I'm going to start with one of our program goals, and that's improve accessibility for people with disabilities, their families, and all travelers by providing customized training and technical assistance to agencies and communities. So it's pretty high level, pretty broad. It's not extremely detailed, but it tells you exactly what you're going to do. We're going to improve accessibility for family and travelers, and we're going to do that by training. Easy enough, right? So then next up, further, you could do a marketing type plan where you're going to build awareness and expand the number of customers served in all of your services by increasing participation through community outreach. So that goes a little bit further. It tells exactly what you're going to do, community outreach, to increase your ridership. So the next few slides, we're going to talk about how you can achieve those, this goal, and all the various steps that go into that. In order to get to pretty decent goals and objectives, you've got to get out there and work with the community. You have to build those relationships with their partners. You got to first know who your partners are. If you haven't gotten out there and made those connections, I would definitely consider that. Who here has done any sort of rider surveys? Was it good? Did you get good feedback? Okay. That's a really great start. It can be anything from some sort of email that you might send out, put it on your website, newsletter type thing, or even just going on the bus and talking to people. You'll get a lot of feedback through any of those mediums, but that will give you the information that you need to improve your system, improve a certain service. Maybe you are thinking about going into a different community. That will give you all sorts of information to improve. Within those goals, you also want to have some sort of timeline attached to that. Because if you just sit there and say, well, I want to increase my ridership, that doesn't tell me anything. So I want to increase my ridership by this time next year. Well, how much do you want to increase your ridership? How much do you want to grow? So that's where this timeline and a lot of other little details matter, because if you just say, I want to do this without attaching those little bits of information, it's probably not going to happen, at least within a time frame that you're thinking about. So back to that idea, increasing ridership, go where the people are. Where are they going? Do you know where all your riders are coming and going? Medical centers, work centers, wherever they're working, Walmart, whatever. Go to where they are, talk to them, see what their needs are, and then more, does your bus go there? I know it's a little bit easier with demand response, but like fixed route, if you've got some people that need to go to a certain part of the city and you don't go there, you might want to consider looking at that a little bit closer and see how your buses can get there. So this is something that we use when we're working with groups to consider how to make your goals and objectives to get to a point where you can be sustainable and achieve good goals. And we call it, we used to say SMART, but we added the IE just to have a little more substance there. But it's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely, inclusive, and equitable. The inclusive and equitable, I think that can be a part of your entire thought process throughout. So this example doesn't exactly put in that example of the IE, but it's pretty spot on to what we're talking about with the SMART. It's identify and develop funding and partnership strategies for access to transportation by engaging in a community needs assessment, by identifying and prioritizing gaps in services by June of 23. So it has all those elements, right? It has exactly what you're going to try to do, who you're going to reach, and it has a timeline. So when you're developing these objectives, thinking about putting all these elements in there and constantly having that so you're building up that awareness of what you're doing. So once you've gotten to sort of that point, you want to have really clear, defined steps to get to that objective. You want to have, you can attach a person to that. Maybe your ops manager is going to do that type of step. Or maybe your executive director has to do that step because they have the connection to the elected officials in the county. So something like that. And again, clearly outlined how that's going to be achieved. Another little tip or tidbit, once you've kind of come to this place of having a full plan, keep it on your agendas at your board. I worked with one agency that they printed it out on hardy cardstock and put it all around the office. So all their staff and whomever are always looking at these goals that they're trying to achieve. So it's always present in what they're trying to do. And lastly, we all want more money. We all want to do different projects. Having an established plan gives you ideas of what to do for future funding opportunities. So think about that. More on growing your network to get more people there. So still building those relationships If you've made those relationships, how do you promote each other? Can they promote you? Can you promote them? Sort of idea. Scratch your back, I'll scratch, like that type of thing. And so that just really builds your network, and it can double your mailing list too. So say you've got 200 on your mailing list, they have 500. That's 700 people that you can reach through that effort. You'll always want, when you're a transit system, people just see you as a bus, right? They just see you as get on and off, cost $2, whatever. I would go a step further when you're trying to promote your service, have some sort of emphasis on cost savings. Like the one before, we were talking about electric buses. That's a perfect time to tell them what the actual cost savings might be, the long-term cost savings of a new service, a new bus, whatever you're trying to do. Have those stats with you when you're talking to the community. Along with those, I think it's always really great to have some sort of story that you can tell. We all can think of that one writer that's either had a ton of trouble getting to where they need to go, their life is kind of crazy, but the bus has helped them get where they need to go. Is everyone thinking of someone right now? Keep that story with you. I think those stories are huge, especially when you're talking to elected officials or your county supervisors or whomever. Those stories really make a difference. If you've got dialysis clients or someone needing to go to work because they've got 2 kids and all this stuff going on, transit helped them to tell that story. Mostly, a lot of transit systems don't do a lot of marketing, so that's kind of the downfall, but I'm urging you all to get out there, be the face, talk to the people. Then they'll start talking to you and get that feedback, and you'll have that presence within the community that they'll start to have that trust and kind of build that up a little bit and rely on you for whatever they might need. We talked about some of those facts earlier. Do all of you know how much your trip costs? I think that should be kind of the number one thing that you're always thinking about. How much does my bus cost the moment I take it off the parking lot? I think that's probably a big thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially the general public. They think that your bus costs $2 just for that ride, right? And that, in actuality, it's probably $20 for that one person, $15, $20. So having that information or that statistic available to talk about, I mean, I wouldn't go on the news every single day and say, well, it's $25 for me to take my bus out and I need more money. That's not what I'm saying, but having that information available to talk about people to understand that your $2 only pays for so much, and that we all here rely on a little bit more to subsidize our service. It sounds a little cliche, but have an elevator speech. Does anybody know if they walked out this door and somebody was walking by and be like, what's going on here? Who are you? Could you tell them who you are and who you represent? Think about that. Have this idea of who you are, what your agency can do, where you're serviced, what area you go to. Think about those. That can be all a part of your outreach and your marketing type plan to have that. Does anybody get contacted by the media for anything? Is it always good? No? Good? Yes? I mean, probably most of us are in the media for a bus crash, maybe some sort of accident that happened. How about we change the dynamic and you contact them to say, we're doing this really great thing, then they can cover your story and put that positive spin on what you're doing, rather than them telling your story about something negative that happened or something. Do you have some sort of idea within your agency who can talk to the media? Do you want your drivers to talk to the media if they put a camera right in their face? No. See it right here. So keep that in mind as an agency, and do your drivers know that they probably shouldn't be just talking to any camera that comes to them, right? Without talking to you first. Yeah. So that can be a part of your marketing. Keep thinking about your public image of what the people see and where your message is going. Does anybody do like morning talk shows or anything? Radio talk shows, sorry. It's kind of a smaller town thing, but it can be really great exposure. It's free usually, and 5 minutes, tell your story. Going back to that elevator pitch, right? Tell your story, especially if you have something new coming up. It's a really great time and great effort. Does the public know how to ride your buses? Do they know the difference between demand response, fixed route, paratransit? Do you think any of your general public knows how to do that? I think that's huge. I think, especially with all of your transit employees, can they describe the differences between all this? Could they describe that there might be call ahead ride reservations? There might be different sort of things to talk about with fixed route in terms of you have to go to the bus stop, you have to wait, you have to get on. Each bus stop looks a little different. It might be a pole, it might be a bench with a big pavilion, so you gotta keep thinking about those little things. We all know that paratransit comes with a lot of different stuff. Does the general public kind of know how that works? Question in the back? It's an example. It's not encouraged, but it is an example of, it's more of a, private companies can do it, or different services for aging services might do it as well. It's not encouraged with federal funds at all, but I put it out there just because it is a term that some human service agencies use. But it's essentially the same, that the driver is taking the person into their home, like maybe across the doorway or something like that. Whereas in transit, we don't want to do that, right? We don't want to go into anybody's home. We don't want to be accused of anything. So that's kind of the difference there. Back to paratransit, do all your staff know how to describe how that works? The eligibility, how to apply? Is there some sort of doctor's approval that needs to go on to that? How do you think your staff or your drivers can help give that message? Keeping all that in mind when you're a public agency and working with the public. Back again to some of that eligibility with paratransit. Non-emergency medical transportation. Similar, but it's not the same, right? NEMT is a whole different thing, but it's another service that you could provide and need to describe to your users. Are all of you aware of different human service agencies that are out in the community? What do they provide? Do you know if you can't provide that ride, can you refer to someone else to take that trip? Do you have Uber or Lyft in your community? So these are all different ideas that need to kind of be thinking about when you're working with the public and working with, try to improve your community's transportation. So I'm going to reemphasize going where the people are. Again, maybe if you're fixed route, if you learn that there's an area of town that your bus doesn't go, consider how can your bus go there, or how can you make that work if you know that you've got maybe a pocket of people that need to go to this work site or this factory or whatever. You as an agency should be going to different meetings out in the community. I know that at least every county or region has some sort of human service type meeting that you can attend. There's a lot of people that go to those, and a lot of people that probably don't know how transportation works. That's your effort to tell them how it works and how their clients can use the bus. Something I heard a long time ago, that transportation is the #1 issue that nobody talks about. Because, especially in those human service agencies, maybe they've had one bad situation in 10 years ago. They're probably not going to use it because they have that in their mind that it didn't work, it wasn't helpful. Keep that in mind. I'm going to say that over and over, but keep that in mind when you're out in the community. Go to these meetings, present to these meetings, ask them to come and present to you. It's a great partnership to have, especially the previous slide when I was talking about perhaps your transit agency can't provide the ride. What about one of those agencies at the meetings that you met last week? They can probably help out. So that's where that community outreach effort is really good. Another thing that I heard quite a bit of years ago is that so in transportation we always talk about going from point A to point B, right? Well, for someone else's life, it starts before point A and ends after point B. So them being on the bus for a half an hour is just a tiny little piece of their life. So I'm gonna say that again, keep that in mind when you're thinking about how does Bob on your bus, how does he react if he's got a cognitive inability in his mind where he's fine, but someone gets too close to him or someone touches him and then he freaks out. Having that in mind of oh, okay, well, maybe we can encourage people to sit in different spots, or really understanding what's going on with your client. Maybe they are in a bad situation at home and their only quiet time is on the bus. That's fine too, but just being aware of what's going on. I wanted to put this back in there, and now that we've gotten to this point, I think these questions might be a little bit easier to think about now that we've gotten at least this far, to how do we answer those questions. Is there any questions before I move on to the next section? This might be hard since a lot of you maybe aren't even on social media, but we'll get to there. So some of you said you had websites. Is it easy to find? No. Is it buried within a city's page? The last tab on the right, and you gotta scroll down. Oh, and there's transit in the Public Works Director section. I see someone smirking over here. Does that? So think about that when you're someone that needs a ride. How are they going to find that information? If they know they're in the city of Huntsville, is that easy to find? I'm sure it probably is, right? But I've known some other cities that it's definitely buried at the very bottom, because it's a T, right? It's at the very bottom of the list, and you can't ever find it. Plain language, of course, you want to use that. Do all your links work? Are you actively looking at your website links, making sure those are updated? Who has control over that? Do you, or do you hire a consultant to do your website updates? Do you have to pay them every time that you do a website update? some things to think about there too. Any sort of graphics, videos. Do people have some sort of video or how to ride type thing on their websites? Should do that. Gary, let's do that next year. No. Another amazing thing that you can do that probably doesn't cost very much, find a photography student, art student, maybe your kid, your friend's kid, who can take really great photos. It could be a really easy, free opportunity to have a great picture of your bus. And then you can use it on your marketing, your websites, presentations that you go to. It's really easy. Or you can pay to have pictures taken. Especially if you're getting a new electric bus, then you can really showcase that out and put it out. Can people read your route maps? Are they easy to understand? I mean, I've worked in transportation for 10 years or more. Sometimes I can't even read a route map. So think about someone that may have a disability or aging, and their eyes aren't working, and you've got really teeny tiny little font on your route map. Thinking about your customer, always. Is there contact information? Does it point them in the right direction? Any sort of follow us type link to get to maybe your social media, get to your web, your newsletter, all sorts of different things that you can think about. Newsletters, kind of the same spiel, keep it easy, straight to the point. Does anybody do newsletters or electronic email type stuff? Okay, I see a couple head shakes there. Short and sweet is always good. In the communications world, it's more judged on how many times you roll your mouse. So how many rolls down or scrolls down is your newsletter. Some newsletters are probably like 5 or 6, 10 scrolls down. That's a lot. So are you doing really good targeted marketing in that way? Are people reading it? Graphics, use that photo that someone took. Really great idea. Again, contact information, do your links work, stuff like that again. Who's on social media? Just a few. How's it work for you? You get good feedback from your customers? No? So we're going to go to this next question. Ask yourself why. Are you on it for a reason? Because society says we have to be on Facebook, right? Do we have to do it? I would say don't create a business account if you don't have the staffing or time to put into it. Facebook and Twitter are notorious for their algorithms. And if you're not constantly on there working at it, you're not going to get any traction. You're not going to get anybody to look at your stuff, vice versa. So if you have the staff available and the time, it can be really great. But like I said, if there isn't that time commitment there, you may want to think about it. Who's your audience? Do you serve mostly aging population, going to meal sites? Or are you serving mostly people with disabilities? Think about that. I don't want to say age range because I might get in trouble, but let's say 65 plus, are they on Facebook? Are they actively using Facebook? So if your prime target and your prime audience is 65 plus, they're probably not going to get the message on Facebook because they may not be on it all the time. Think about that. And then the other services in that photo there, nobody under the age of maybe 25 is on Facebook. If any of you have kids, you probably really understand that. I mean, I do, but I'm almost 40. But but that's the reality. So if you're in a community that's maybe got a lot of young families, and if you want to be on social media thinking about that, how do you reach those kids? They're on Snapchat, they're on TikTok, they're not on the mainstreams of what's out there that we know. So always thinking about who's your audience. And make it real. Driver spotlights, any sort of project you have going on, put out some really good, real things of what's going on. You can still do service changes or closures, that's fine too, but interject in some other stuff in there to have fun. Here's some different ads from around the country that I was able to find. Just advertising that transportation can help you, especially when you're commuting. You can read the paper, you can do work on the bus. It's a little suggestive, but do it on the bus. There's a superhero in the middle. It says, let other superheroes wrestle with traffic. So put their driver is a superhero, right? So that's just another fun way of putting the message out there, but still telling a story. And then that last one is a job announcement. All of you do staff training, driver training, right? I hope. Put that out there. Let people know that they know how to use fire extinguisher, they know CPR, they know first aid, they know what they're doing out there, that they feel safe, and they know how to take care of different situations. They know proper wheelchair securements. Or this is an example of one of those staff showcases that you could do. Just showing that maybe someone knows that they call in every couple of days and they talk to Natasha. They don't know what she looks like. So that could be a great way to show, okay, now I know who I'm talking to. Any other things that your transit system does? Maybe you go on a group trip and talk to your legislators in DC. That's great. Shows them that you're trying to get more funding, you're advocating for them. Did anybody celebrate Driver Appreciation Day last week? Got one? Every day. That's a good response. Did anybody know that was a day? Anybody not know? Is that a surprise? So the Driver Appreciation Day is kind of a national effort, and you can follow along. There's a lot of great pictures out there, but I think this one's from Philadelphia, but just a way to show their appreciation. Same with putting out, their staff highlights or whatever. You can do a lot of those during the week as well. If you got any sort of community funds or something like that, they give you a big check for a reason. Put it out there, show it, flaunt it, have fun. Any sort of ongoing meetings, stuff like that, put it out there, let people know. Still having fun doesn't have to be transit related either. It could be a bison. The National Park Service put that out a couple years ago. And it says, bison are known to provide reliable public transit. However, unscheduled stops for grazing can often impact on-time arrival. It doesn't have anything to do with anything, right? But it's still fun. It made a few of you laugh, right? So some of your writers might enjoy that. If your community is maybe launching a new scooter service or something, that's kind of a perfect idea. You don't want your dad or your grandpa using a scooter like that, but it could be kind of a fun thing to do when you're trying to launch a new scooter service. A lot of transit systems over the year have really latched onto this May 4th and Star Wars correlation with May the 4th be with you, so May 4th. So there's a lot of transit systems that really got creative with putting their buses on different characters or scenarios. Again, being fun, having fun. Oh, I thought I was going to play. So I'll describe this. This is a community in northeast Iowa, small community. But they were wanting to do more bus advertising. And so they went with this ad company, and I think the video will speak for itself, but I want you to, it's only a couple minutes.
The city of Dubuque came to us with a challenge. Prove to local advertisers that bus ads work. So we decided to take the public for a little ride. Now what would get Dubuquers' attention?
If you were to pick one new restaurant to come to Dubuque, what would it be?
Red Lobster.
I'd say Red Lobster.
Red Lobster.
Red Lobster. Red Lobster.
So we gave them the next best thing. And filled out the bus with 2 other fictitious ads. A new angle on an old landmark. And labor-saving livestock. Following the links revealed the truth. Unveiled at the Halloween parade, we garnered over 600 web hits within the first 24 hours. Not too bad for one bus on one day. Predictably, the Blue Lobster DBQ got the most attention. The public embraced the prank. And advertisers took notice too. Now that's driving attention.
What do you think? That was fun, right? I came across that and I had to snag it up because it was pretty funny. But you saw that they have really great attention. Parades are another great way to get your name out there. And creating a new something, Blue Lobster restaurant, I don't know what that is, but people paid attention. Of course, a lot of you have printed materials. How often do you all update those? Anybody? Do you have a schedule to update those? Is that in a plan or a policy? Think about that. So if you're developing some sort of marketing policy or a business plan, put that in there, because a lot of people probably don't update their brochures or any sort of printed material on a regular basis. I would say every couple of years, thinking about looking at it again, maybe update the graphics, update some of the language that's used. Still thinking about all your goals and objectives that are in your plan. If you have any sort of branding, so say your system is, I don't know, white and purple, everything matches. So you're not putting out some obscure material that's all of a sudden orange, and so people don't know who you are. So keep the color scheme, keep that idea. So those who do printed materials, do you know where your brochures are located? Do you keep record of where they've been distributed and where they go? Has anyone ever thought about that? I think that's probably a really great thing to consider, because especially if you have a brand new route, a brand new service that's coming, big changes. It's been 10 years since you've updated your brochures. You want to have an idea of where your brochures are, or what I mean is where, if there's a lobby and the brochures are kind of in there, or at some sort of clinic or something like that, thinking about where those are at, and then update them, get them out there where they're at. The next few are some free resources that you can use. Anybody can use. Actually, so I'm part of another group that's the National Aging and Disability Transportation Center, or NADTC. And we've put together a couple years ago this Every Ride Counts. And it's a free resource. And the link is down there. Are people getting the presentations later or access to them?
We'll have them posted on the website.
Okay. Okay, so the link will be in there once you can see that and you can access. Um, so there are templates put together that you can use already, and there's all sorts of different sayings or visuals on that, and you're free to use, like I said. So if you don't have anything, this might be a good start to kind of start playing around with something. National RTAP has a ton of great resources out there, tons. So anything that you're doing, they have a procurement toolkit, they have a marketing toolkit, they have a website toolkit, they have all these great toolkits that you can put together any sort of material that you want. This particular example is a new route map. So it has that capability, it has those images on there and free to use. So keep that in mind too, that you don't have to do it all on your own. There's different methods out there. Well, I don't know. I don't know. All right, now, now we're here. Okay, I'm almost done, I swear. So where do you go from here? You've got some sort of marketing plan. You've got some ideas internally. You've talked to some community members, but you still think that there might be something that your staff needs, or your leadership team needs, or your board might need more information. There's a lot of really great training resources out there. Has anyone heard of National Transit Institute, NTI? If you haven't, definitely look it up. The past few years, they've done everything online, but I'm assuming they'll get back into in-person. Anybody that receives FTA funds can attend those for free, so definitely take the advantage of that. And if you want a particular training as well, you can host those trainings too. So you can talk with them to get those. Let's see. There's another one, the Small Urban and Rural Rural Center on Mobility. There's a lot of transportation centers across the country, but this is a particular one that I'm familiar with. And they have a couple different trainings as well, different reports and different material that you can use to look at or learn from as well. But there's a lot of different community organizations that provide different trainings. There's always webinars out there that we do, and so just keep your eye out for what's happening. Speaking of training, so myself and my colleague Carol Wright here, you'll hear from her in the morning. We offer a lot of different trainings that we can do or tailor to what you need, anywhere from transit management down to some sort of succession planning, business planning, HR type situations, marketing your transit system, employee engagement, but we're very flexible. So whatever your transit agency might need, that's our specialty, is transit and the ADA. So anything that you can put into that box, we're very open. We also do a lot of project management. We get contacted quite a bit from different agencies or different local authorities that say, hey, we're going to apply for this grant. Would you like to partner on that grant? Of course. And so we work with them. And we can allow any sort of, we can write the RFP for you. We can work with you to get that submitted. We'll oversee the entire process as well. We're really great at research and putting together reports or something like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then a few months ago, we were here for a couple weeks working with 5307s and transitioning them from small to large urban and direct recipients. So
We weren't here, we were at the Mobile Airport.
we're in Mobile, yeah. But I took a little Candid there, so that was a fun ride, right? Last thing that I'll mention is we do like to do what we call community coalitions. And so we do targeted conversation or facilitated conversation with different communities and talking through different scenarios of what they might need. So say if they are trying to get some sort of network together and talk about how to improve transportation, or they've got this group of people that need to get wherever they need to go. So we kind of pull everybody together and talk to them in a 2-day facilitated conversation. And through that, we establish what's the need or the urgent issue there. Develop some sort of vision planning and action plan. A lot of those elements that I talked about earlier with the objectives and your steps, that comes directly from these coalitions that we do. And so by the end, you're going to continually bring in new people to grow your coalition and have some sort of structure for into the future. So here we are, right at about an hour, so that's pretty good. Any questions from the audience? You all are so excited to be marketers.
You're between them and the beach.
I know.
You'll be around for a little while today, though, right? Okay.
And I'll leave tomorrow around lunch, but I'll be
Okay.
here.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy, for your
Yeah.
presentation.